Well, hey, folks, we don't have anybody on here yet. This is really impromptu. So, this bit of voice is really just for those who are watching this afterwards, I guess. Let me make sure that we get the sound on. We do indeed. Awesome. So, yeah, I'll kind of just wait around while we'll see if people will join up or not. It being impromptu, I'm not thinking that we're going to have a huge crowd. Yo, Jesse! My goodness, well, people are already coming on here. My Myco company. What's up to you too? It is a beautiful day in East Tennessee. Slightly too cool for shorts and slightly too warm for pants. What's up, Eric? Mark? Welcome, guys. No shit. Even Myco Myers is there. And I can see behind me. Oh, man. Well, shit, it's good to see everybody joining on so quick. I didn't think that an impromptu live stream would actually attract that many people. But I'm glad that it did. You're at least always there in my heart, Myco. Genghis Khan, we sell spawn and liquid culture. I don't sell spores. Oh my goodness. Fellow Tennessean here, an hour west of Nashville. Well, man, you'll have to come by. That means that you're only about 5 hours away. You'll have to come back and visit, stay the night, and then head on back. What's up, Nathan? Clean your lens. Was that better? This is wool. I don't think it's going to clean very well. And I don't have any alcohol wipes with me. All right. See how that goes. Central Florida in the house. He's back. Yes, Mr. T, back. I was never really gone. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, Genghis Khan. The site's just mossycreekmushrooms.com. Really easy to find. And yeah, we do mainly liquid culture. We do spawn. We're about to start offering slants, so we haven't yet. I'm on a live stream, but you're welcome to come over. Why are you making that face for, Samantha? But you made a sad face. Samantha broke the bagger earlier. Shredded it.
Broke itself.
She not only did she bend the eye bolt that holds the piston in place, she shattered the 2x4 it's secured to, bent the bolt, and then shattered the bolt somehow. And I don't know how she did all three of those things.
I would never.
I would expect one of those to break, but all three to break at the same time is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyways. It's not the lens, it's the backlight from shooting towards the sun. Yeah, as far as the brightness goes, if I shot the other direction, my power cord won't work. So unfortunately, this is going to be the best we're going to get until I get the studio built back out. Once I get the studio built back out, I'm hoping to have Samantha and I and Josiah sit back down for weekly topics again. Yeah, look at this. That's the bent bolt. And there was about that much more bolt on it.
Quit hitting yourself. Yeah, it snapped off.
Snapped. Just so you guys know how rough Samantha is on stuff. Thank you, Jesse. I didn't know if wool would actually help or not, but it did seem like you cleaned it up. I drive through East Tennessee all the time. I'll make a special trip to hang out and learn from the master. Well, I am not the master, but you can definitely come and I will answer anything I can. Let me know when you're coming, though, because I'm not always at the shop. Do you think it's a good idea to use ice to cool your grow room? Would it mess with the pond fogger if you had ice in the water with it? I don't think that ice would bother it. Usually the problem with those ultrasonic is that heat is the enemy. So you always want like fresh water being added so that it maintains a certain temperature. And then you want what I consider huge wet spells and dry spells as far as your humidity goes, and that way it's cutting on and off, and you have that constant flow of water to keep things cool. If you were putting ice in it, I don't know that would be a problem. Those discs do heat up the water though, so I don't know if the atomized water is warmer or not. So let's see. Do you think it's I just answered that one. Yes, howdy. Hope the famous do great. Absolutely, free guy. It is doing excellent. Things are going really, really surprisingly well right now. Like we had a bit of a rough spot from probably September to December last year. Most of that was health concerns for me, but some of that was just I was taking on too many jobs all at once, and ended up causing some health problems that put me in the hospital overnight. But then after that, I managed to get things under control, so I'm doing much better now. Family's doing well, and business is doing good. So as far as I can tell, that means things are going well. Thank you for asking. Murphy was looking over her shoulder. I don't know who Murphy is. Oh no, you make a huge difference. Much better. Thank you. She bags so fast the bagger can't keep up. That is true. And Jesse, this is the new prototype bagger that Ben's making, or at least some of the prototype pieces. So the water system is super fast. That bagger now is just blazing out bags, and Samantha still tore it up. So right, I won't show up unexpected. I appreciate that, Maiko. Are you going to do another video on the liquid culture aeration tech soon? I might. I have not been using it for a while. I have put a pause on it. It just makes so much liquid culture. And like I was saying, when we had that kind of rough patch from, what was it? I guess July, September to December, I didn't have time for any extra projects or experimentation or anything. So basically it came down to all of my side projects got put on hold. I've only just now started putting a lot of it back together because we decided to, instead of hiring back the 4 people that we had before, kind of collapsing down a little bit and trying to refocus on things to see which parts of the business were really making money, which parts were not, and then only hire as we absolutely have to for the moment. So we're getting the experimentation just now kind of going back in. We started some of the older experiments back in March, and now I've got some stuff set up for April, and through the summertime I'll probably try the aeration again and do a video on it on a larger scale. I'd actually like to talk to there's 2 or 3 people that have really taken my aeration tech and really run with it, and I'd really like to get them on and have them discuss, because they took what little bit of work I did and really kind of souped it up. They simplified some processes and made not only some things more simple, but also more productive in some ways. And so I'd really like to get these guys in who have continued the experimentation and get them in talking to me. If you are one of those people, contact me if you have an interest in getting on. Let's see. My oysters 3015 are flipping up and look like cups. Do you know what is causing this? At what stage are they flipping up and becoming cup-like? Like, are your mushrooms staying tiny and then flipping up? Are they? What's on this table? I think my son was painting on this table. Are they getting real small and then flipping up, or are they getting fairly large and then flipping up? Because oysters almost always flip up at some point or another. The question is whether or not that strain is usable or even preferred with a flipped up. Some oysters taste better and cook up better after they flipped up. The mother of pearl oyster is a really good example of this. But the 3015, as far as I know, it's like a lot like Lambert's 123, except it's a little less blue, a little less firm, and more warm weather tolerant. My understanding is that you don't want that one to flip up. You want to pick it when the caps are still concave like that. So Mark, give me a little bit more detail, see if I can't help you out, because I don't know at what stage. If they're doing it really, really early, then you probably have an issue, and that could be a carbon dioxide issue, an over humidification issue, a bacterial issue. Still very small. That could be bacterial. Are the mushrooms changing colors? Like, are they brown? That kind of stuff. And what's your humidity level set at? Katie Volker says, do you use any respiratory protection when in your grow room? I've developed a bit of a chronic cough since I started growing. I'm wondering if it might be from breathing in spores. It is most certainly from breathing in spores. Yes, you should use respiratory protection when you are in the grow room. We do sometimes, and sometimes we don't. We're not always the best about it. Yeah, Mark, I know you can't send pics. You'll just have to describe it to me as best you can. I mean, you can send pics to mossycreekmushrooms@gmail.com, and I can take a look at your pictures there. But I cannot promise that I will answer within a week, or it might take me a week or two to answer you. So yeah, just mossycreekmushrooms@gmail.com. So the respiratory protection is really, really important. Oyster mushrooms, I have found, the spores are just like caustic for your lungs. Basically what happened was I started developing a chronic cough. This is when I had the basement up, and before I started using respiratory protection. In specific, I actually got a full face respirator. Now that I wear contacts instead of glasses, I use a full face respirator after talking to my optometrist about how there's a little bit of a scare for me having some autoimmune issues with contacts and spores potentially getting in my eyes and reusing contacts. I could use dailies, I guess, and then just throw them away. But if I reuse them, I don't want to be putting spores back in my eyes over and over again. And mushrooms can survive saline, salt water, so it wasn't ideal for me. But I started developing a chronic cough, and then started getting like the worst flu feeling I've ever had. And then the flu just kept staying around for weeks and weeks. And it was like, okay, normally a flu goes through pretty quick compared to this. And then I would take some time off work and I'd feel better almost immediately. And then I'd get back to it. And it was like, okay, if I took a day off work, I'd be feeling perfectly fine by the next day. So then I'd go back to work and then I'd have the flu symptoms again. And then it would happen again and again until I realized it's the oyster mushroom spores. And then I became a very big proponent whenever I was active on Facebook, which I'm not anymore. But I became a very big proponent on Facebook of correcting people's grows when I saw them exhausting their tents just out into their living rooms or anywhere where they were spending some time, and trying to tell people that like this is really unsafe. You do not want a spore lung. Spore lung is terrible. It hurts. It is, like I said, the worst flu symptoms I've ever had. Bone chills and swollen joints, and it all started with just that little chronic cough. So yes, use respiratory protection. Your lungs are important. Do not mess them up. I can't go into the grow room now for more than just a couple of minutes without a mask, and I'll immediately start getting snot running and an itchy throat and all that kind of stuff. So I've developed a sensitivity. My business partner Ben, he started off with a sensitivity. My father is horribly sensitive. He won't even come look at the grow room hardly. Like I'll send him pictures, and that's about what he'll take. But it is very interesting relying on a crop, which at this point I'm straight up allergic to. But it is what it is. Well, thanks, Austin. I appreciate it. I love my peeps too. It's good to be loved. And Katie, you're very welcome. I hope that helps. And if you're venting out into your house, your rooms, or anything like that, just build a small duct out to a window, and just maybe like a piece of styrofoam cut out with your duct that can fit right into it. It'll be good. Let's see. Free guy found to dial in growing only these. Thank you. What did I miss? To dial in only growing. Sean, you're gonna have. I don't. Maybe I missed something. I'm not sure. Anyways, What's up, Dr. Jerkface? What are the best temperatures for spawning and fruiting chestnut? That's actually, I don't know. People always ask me what the best temperature is for anything, and the answer is, I don't know. It's all kind of made up, these best temperatures. That's one of the reasons why I don't list a lot of temperatures in mine, just what I have experienced. But mushrooms will usually fruit warmer and cooler than what people claim. Um, that said, the I'm going to say chestnuts fruit really well for me between 60 and 70, anywhere between there. Our spawn run is roughly the same right there. So, which we run ours for about 6 weeks in incubation. I like to let my chestnut bags get really white, and then they'll develop these orange, yellow, gooey looking pockets, and I just let the entire block get as ooey gooey as I can stand to let it get. 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes 9 weeks. It just like I'll just let them keep growing until that block is really just kind of nasty looking, kind of funky. And then at that point, we take the blocks, we hold them up at shoulder height, and just drop them. And then after that, we cut them open and shelve them. And just that shock seems to really help them fruit big time. What's up, Julie? Yes, Katie, I can still eat the mushrooms even though I'm sensitive to the spores, which is weird to me because the spores have got to be on the mushrooms even after they're cooked. And maybe it's part of the process of cooking them, but like if I get oyster mushrooms, if they touch my skin, if the spores touch my skin, I get very itchy and kind of almost like a burning sensation. So like if I go touch oysters at all and I get spores in my hands, I'm going to the bathroom and washing thoroughly as quickly as possible. But then I can cook them up. I can eat them. I love eating oyster mushrooms. I like to use the powder as a steak rub and for everything else. And yeah, it does great for me. So eating's fine. My dad can eat the mushrooms too. Just can't have the smell of the spores. Yeah, one time I made the mistake of getting spores in my hands and going like that. And when I did like that, oh my gosh, the burning sensation in my eyes. That was just one of the most intense things I've ever had. Thank you, Jeremiah. Yeah, it's always good to see Samantha. I know. Better to see Samantha though, really. While we are here, do you know if any metal lines that can carry liquid and be flame heated? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of them. Are you like? I mean, gosh, you don't know there's stuff in the automotive, but there's definitely some stuff in the industrial world. Copper can be heated and carry liquid. There's all kinds of copper tubing and piping out there. You can get that stuff at Lowe's and use like a wine bottle or something or even just they've got actual pipe bending tools that you can use to bend it the way any direction you want. Do you have any contamination problems when using the LC aeration tech? I only had it once. Now, something that I have had that was really interesting was, and it had to have happened in the aeration side, is that I took King Blue, put 10 milliliters of that into a couple gallons of liquid culture, aerated it, and then dosed it out into blocks. So something like 30 blocks. And just really spattered a bunch of liquid culture all over those blocks. And then fruited them. And when we fruited them, every single one of those blocks produced the same mushroom, but it was not King Blue anymore. It was very like King Blue. It did not have the same color at all. It was a very different color. But the mushroom was firmer, still had the big stems, still had a lot of the shape of the King Blue, still pinned weird. So I am positive that it was King Blue-ish, but I don't know what changed it. So something about that aeration tech perhaps encouraged a certain cell line in that King Blue culture to grow, or maybe I had a mutation that took over the entire organism. Or I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of things. So the thing about mushrooms is that they're very epigenetic centered. Their DNA is very different from ours in that they rely much more heavily on epigenetics than even we do. So I'm not sure what caused it, but it was crazy. And in fact, we call it the King Blue Imposter. It's in trials right now, but we're probably going to be releasing it for sale pretty soon because it is like King Blue, but much more firm and meaty. So, oh, I lost my place after getting off on that. Hey, what's up, Dustin? Taking a break with Smoothie on the farm and happened to see this. Funny, I'm allergic to sour diesel trichomes. Interesting. I've not had that problem that I know of, but then again, in East Tennessee, you don't always get the type that you're being told that you're getting. So, smash that like. Yeah, people smash that like. Help me out. Give me some likes here. Have you heard of virus affecting expressions of pheno? Sounds like that. I mean, yeah, that's entirely possible. That's absolutely possible. That's one of the reasons why slants are so important, because if you have a cell line, even if you keep it healthy and going, and you have a mutation that happens to it, or an expression changed, then for whatever reason, then that you can't just revert back to what you want. But having stuff in slants means that you can go back to the original. My comment went too long and apparently got chopped. Bear's head still your Hericium for high 60s. Yeah. I mean, Bear's head is fantastic. I just bred Bear's head to Lion's Beard, and we've got several strains going into. They're in grain going into fruiting blocks now. So, I'm excited to see what happens with that, because Lion's Beard is a crazy good producer, and Bear's Head is a good quality mushroom. Left mushroom growing for a while. Oh, well, hate to hear that. Can you go liquid culture to Master's Mix? So you can, to goat mix you can. Master's Mix is, with Hericium, it seems to be more plausible. It's not a sure shot, but I had very good results going from liquid culture to bulk Master's Mix when it was Hericium. But yeah, the wood sawdust doesn't seem to support oyster growth very well straight from liquid culture. So oftentimes you'd have to do a little pocket of grain or something like that to it. But when it was straw mix, which I'm not doing as much of, well, really any of right now, since we're switching over so much to Hericiums. But the liquid culture just never seemed to take to the sawdust. Enoki did. Enoki took to sawdust, and the Hericium that we trialed did. And what specifics for a grow tent? I mean, it's going to be basically the same stuff that I've said before. Around 65 degrees is usually my temperature I'm shooting for, because it allows for you to grow the biggest, widest range of mushrooms. Most mushrooms are going to thrive pretty well around 65 degrees. But I mean, you can go even lower. As far as like humidity goes, that's going to depend somewhat on your native humidity, but mine right now is set somewhere between 85 and 90% on the high end and 65 to 70% on the low end, so that I'm getting those nice swings back up and down. Mycology Corner. I want to paint my pasteurizer. Do you have any suggestions what type of paint? I was thinking of it. Heat resistant. Excuse me. I don't want to rust. Grill paint works really well from what I hear. I don't know if that's of an enamel or not, but you can go get like spray paint for your grill, where you can buff out the rusty spots and then just touch it up with that grill paint. That stuff is very high temperature resistant and holds up pretty well to cooks. Flap around FPV. Hey man, are you still running the organic oat hull? We never had any luck with it. Tried for many weeks using many different parameters. Yeah. I mean, we're using. I'm waiting on a batch right now, but yeah, we've been using the oat hulls for months and months. We did have some soy, and we were kind of alternating between the two. But I'm trying to remember what date it was that we started on the oat hulls. But we've been, almost everything in my grow room right now is oat hulls. I don't know what parameters you changed, but I found backing off the oat hulls worked really well. So right now we're at a what is it? We're at a 65% hardwood and 35% organic oat hulls, and that's working out really really well. We're having great results. Our pearly whites are going insane right now. We've got I've got some pictures up. Samantha took them and posted them to Instagram on her account. But we've just got walls and walls of mushrooms coming in right now in huge clusters. MMG, psilocybin is the best. Well, it is certainly useful. Um, I'm not gonna say it's the best or not the best. It's certainly useful. I found it useful once or twice, and then really haven't had the need to go back. But what's up, John? Good to see you on here. All of my hericiums came out poorly. Tried everything from 20 to 40% supplementation. Do you use hardwood as well as your other part, or do you use straw? Because the straw, hericium does not like the straw. But from what I have found, hericiums seem to love the oat hulls. For me, I'm using hardwood fuel pellets from Tractor Supply and organic oat hulls from Seth Fisher. Right now, I ran out and I forgot to order some, so I'm actually waiting on a couple pallets from him. But we had some leftover wheat bran, so I'm using wheat bran pellets right now just to finish those off while we're waiting. Oak, all from Seth. Yeah, man, I don't know what to say. Were your oysters and everything working out okay? Because if that's the case, maybe, or if that's not the case, maybe you had some poor quality cooks, or I don't know. It's kind of hard to know. There's so many variables that can go into it. Enjoy the journey, says 10-pound blocks. How many flushes are you allowing your blocks to fruit? I have 12-pound blocks, and we get the blocks stay in our grow room for 4 weeks. So some strains, slower strains, will get 2 flushes out of, and faster strains like the pearly white, Yeti's breath, mother of pearl, things that are real fast and aggressive, we'll get 3 to 4 flushes out of in a 4-week cycle in the grow room. So I'm not really allowing them to fruit any set number. It's just they stay in the grow room for 4 weeks. So back to soy now and hitting 2.7 onion. Yeah, I mean, that's if that's no oysters, just lion's mane. If that's what's working for you, then I suggest just continue to use that. The oats have been working really well for me, but I've heard that a couple people have had problems with them. I've not really had any issues. I did in the beginning, but then once I backed off down to 35% supplementation, I stopped having any issues. Other than the one instance of mutation, did the aerated LC perform better or worse than normal LC? Well, it performed better, but I can't say that that's a one-for-one kind of scenario. The amount of hyphal extensions that we had in the aerated liquid culture was far beyond what we had in regular stirred culture. So our cultures were thicker, denser, downright goopy, almost like a slurry, because they were so thick with mycelium. And that's different than what you're going to get a lot of times in your stirred cultures. So it performed better, but I'm not sure. Other than the fact that the aeration allowed for more hyphal extensions, I'm not sure that it was the aeration or the fact that there were more hyphal extensions. So we see you. Yeah, you can let him out. Come on, Daddy. Good boy. Good boy. But yeah, other than, the mutation wasn't a bad thing. It actually grew, like I said, some really nice mushrooms. So, but yeah, other than that, I think that overall, I'm calling the aeration experiments a success. But there are standards of standards that need to be created to make it a commercial system. It's not a commercial system yet. Some people have done some of the legwork to make it a commercial system. And in Asia, you find, and in parts of Europe, they use a lot of liquid culture in a commercial setting. So it is possible. I've considered a bunch of different ways of doing it, just haven't done all the legwork yet. I mean, UV sterilization of water sounds really interesting to me, and combined with a heat pressure treatment of a sugar concentrate that can then be added to the large volume of UV sterilized water. And then after all that stuff is combined, you hopefully would be able to just add a culture. And that would keep the system fairly cheap for those of us building stuff on our own. But shrug life. Yeah, I mean, that is the nature of the mushroom world right now. Everything is kind of like, a lot of people like to pretend we know things, but all I can tell you is what works for me, and it's really unfortunate that there is not much in the way of a standard that can be set down anywhere and work just fine perfectly, but there's just too many variables. And I mean, really, that's farming in general. If you talk to a lot of farmers, the things it's called what is it called? Legibility, illegibility. Basically, people want you to give them a legible way to grow mushrooms. They want you to give them a legible way to count yields in a crop, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact is that anything biology centered is naturally illegible, and you can put some numbers and statistics together based on certain parameters, but that only goes so far and means so much. And pretty much all the statistics are made up to a degree. So, I mean, they may be true statistics, but sometimes they're used in very strange ways, like weight as an account of yield on a block is not the best way to go, in my opinion, but it is a very easy standard to work with, so it often gets done. What is your top producing mushroom at this time? I'm interested in your Rocky Top. Well, Rocky Top is a very good one. It's producing very well in the grow room right now. Rocky Top is polyphenotypic, meaning that when it grows out and has, you can see its phenotype, the way the mushroom grows, the coloration, the yields, and etc. Rocky Top being polyphenotypic means that it has many phenotypes that it presents. And this is true in cold weather. It tends to produce blue. In warm weather, it can produce white. And there's also a brown phase that we have noticed as well. So there's at least 3 different forms of Rocky Top in color. And the blue one seems to have the best stems, but all 3 of them are quality mushrooms. And it's interesting because you can grow a single strain and get 3 different types of mushrooms throughout the year from it. And I guess when I say white, it doesn't really come out like a pure white, like a pearly white or a mother of pearl does. It's kind of more of a very pale slate or kind of a gray color. As far as top producing, just in general, Yeti's Breath is probably the top producing strain that I have. I mean, that's why that it's put in the commercial section now. That is why it is sold in slant form as well as liquid culture and sold at the price that it's at. Because our highly tested commercial strains are now put at a higher price than our standard selection. That said, if you're wanting something that's in the standard selection, that is a really high producing mushroom. Pearly White is a sister strain to Yeti's Breath and is in the standard selection at the standard pricing. And then that's a really heavy producing strain, Pearly White. Very kind of twisted, long, horn-shaped stems. It's very neat. And then we have, let's try to get you a blue. Probably the best producing, most beautiful blue that we have right now is BS26. So BS26 is probably the best blue color, and it retains a lot of that blue even into maturation. So there's you some strengths, and if you want more suggestions, just let me know. Is it 5:20 already? Dang. What's up, Magnolia? Devin? Making sure I got this all right. Your Hericium blocks are 65% hardwood fuel pellets, 35% oat hull, and you recommend using spawn still oat spawn. Yeah, I mean we're still using our blend, except we've been having trouble getting some corn occasionally. But corn is the least important part of the process. We use Milo, a mix of Milo and oats. But yes, we still use oats as our primary ingredient in the spawn. And it's not just our Hericium blocks. It's pretty much all of our blocks are 65% hardwood fuel pellets and 35% oat hulls. That's Hericium and oysters. Though we are growing a lot more Hericium. But yeah, you got it correct. And that's 60% hydration. Colin says, "Hey Andrew, I'm looking at new boxes for my 5-pound wholesale orders. Looked at everything from cake boxes to cardboard shipping boxes. What would you recommend and what's a decent price?" Well, Colin, I don't know. I get my 10-pound boxes from Granger. I used to get them from Uline. We actually switched over to a box instead of that was short and wide with 4 clusters facing up, 3 to 4 clusters facing up. We now do a taller, longer box and put the clusters usually standing up, facing each other, and the substrate facing out. This keeps the mushrooms really clean, and then the chefs can see the tops of the clusters look really nice when they open up the box. But it's 3 to 4 clusters. I don't remember the size, but I get them from Granger. I mean, they're $1.25 a piece, something like that. I could get them cheaper, but I mean it's pretty easy. I mean, you got a case selling for $90. A buck 25 is not too bad. Let's see. Oh, hold on. My seem to be frozen on my phone. Oh no, there he goes. And sorry, I'm trying to get my chat. All right. Well, it doesn't look like I've got any other questions so far. Good old sweet tea. Yeah, absolutely, free guy. Grow mostly microgreens right now, but the Hericium just needed to come back. I mean, I agree, man. It's got the mushrooms are too good. Plus, paired up with the microgreens, they end up selling for quite a bit and working together pretty well. Stop that. I think that they work really well together. In fact, the guy that we've got here doing a mentorship with us is coming from a farm that does almost entirely microgreens, and then they're coming here because he's doing the mushroom part for them, and they're gonna. I mean, they do other things too. I think he said they do root crops and some other stuff. But he came from Canada to spend the week with us to learn to grow mushrooms and how to scale up their operation. And they're going to go back and try to make blocks and produce on a scale where they can actually save some money producing their own, because I think they purchase blocks now. But yeah, man, I think microgreens and mushrooms go really well hand in hand. There's experiments I want to do on both. Number one is I want to take the microgreen root mats, just roll them up, stuff them in a bag, pasteurize them, and then inoculate them and see what kind of yields I can get off the waste products of a microgreens farm. And then the other side of that is I'd like to take the spent block material and sterilize it, and then see how useful it would be as the basically a seed starter mix. Like, can you grow the microgreens in spent mushroom substrate? And yes, the other goes right there. So, do you still sell LC lids? We absolutely do. They're on the website. We absolutely sell them. I mean, heck, someone just ordered 40 of them, and we just shipped out a box of them. So, ooh, and there goes a nice car. It's a really nice red Corvette. Uh, how's Jackie doing in his new job? Well, Jackie got fired at his new job, but he got another job, and he got another job before he got fired at his other job. Um, so I will say one thing I've always appreciated about Jackie is he doesn't take shit off people, and so apparently he turned in his 2 weeks notice at his job that he left here for, and they start coming down real hard on him, and he told them not to be a dick, and they're like, well, that's disrespectful, well, you're fired. And Jack was like, okay. Like, fine, I've got another job already. So that was always doomed to fail. You can't. That's a nice thing about Jack and Tristan. But as far as I know, in his new job, he and I don't get to talk very much right now because he was working night shift. He's got the new baby. He's got family life, so we really don't see each other very often. And then we've been so busy here that I haven't had room to breathe until very recently. So yeah, he did send me some pictures of the baby and told me a little bit about what's going on. So life seems good. I really enjoy your channel and all the information you have shared. I have learned a lot. We are in Central Canada. Stay awesome. Central Canada? Holy crap. You're in the cold part then. Am I wrong? And thank you. Awesome idea on you reusing substrates. I might have to play with that and let you know. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that it's gonna work out well. I think it's a really it's got a real potentiality to work out as a circular fashion. Something that we were discussing today during after lunch or whatever with the new mentee is that I love my idea of a mature mushroom industry in the United States is a few centralized but highly diversified regional block producers where all the heavy shipping is done to a centralized facility. And then the only thing that is shipped to smaller farms, you'd have a farm in every city, every town, whatnot. And preferably, in my opinion, you would have a mushroom grow associated with other types of farming, right? And that way, all that substrate that you're producing can then just go right back into a microgreens op. It can go into an insect operation or right just into compost piles and just be. I mean, anyone who's grown mushrooms and thrown the blocks out knows that it just creates the blackest, densest, just great smelling earth. And to me, that makes a lot of sense to have that associated with it. So, I think the reusability factor between it's just too good. Before we became established here, I was having a hard time getting rid of spent substrate, and so I was literally throwing that stuff in the dumpster because I can't let it build up here at the shop because we're classified light industrial, so I can't have compost piles and stuff here. Now, I mean, I've got blocks right here lined up against the wall behind you on shelves. And then when people drive by, I've got a whole slew of customer base now that know they can come in and they load up their truck, right? And then if we've got some that we need reserved, we just put a sign on it, and sometimes the sign works, and sometimes I've come out here and people are loading up reserved blocks. So, but I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I love the idea of having mushroom farms be more integrated with everything else. And I like the idea of instead of every farm inefficiently cooking blocks to lean into the efficiencies of a centralized system, but with liquid culture dosing into grain spawn, custom orders are that much easier to do, and smaller scale projects are that much easier to do than the traditional method is right now. How do you excuse me, I don't know why I decided to do the live stream outside, other than the fact that it's pretty. But now my allergies are starting to get to me. How do you get your kings and chestnuts to fruit consistently? Well, I mean, we plant consistently. Chestnuts, one of the big tricks is that you chestnuts you want to plant consistently every single week. But a lot of people try to fruit their chestnuts, I think, too early. I think that chestnuts do better when they incubate at least 6 weeks and sometimes 8 weeks, which puts them really in the range of shiitake. The reason why they're still worth it to me, even though they take up that much space for that long, is that I actually sell them for more than I sell for shiitakes. And they're a one-stop pick and pull, and you're done. Whereas shiitake, you're cutting every single mushroom, and that cutting of every single mushroom is terrible. It's not at all what you want to be doing. So the labor was intensive. I used to try to get Diane and Jackie and Tristan and whoever else was with Matt at the time to stay and stay late and pick mushrooms, because we'd be staying another 2 or 3 hours just picking shiitake, which made it not worth it. But um, your temperature plays a bigger part in king oyster production. Whereas chestnuts, I think that as long as you plant consistently and let them sit for longer, let that block get ooey gooey, orange pockets and that goop that chestnuts make, let that block just really get where it looks like it's gross, and then fruit it, and it fruits amazing and very consistently at that point. Another thing that we do is we'll take the blocks and hold them out at shoulder height and then just drop them and let them smack into the floor, hopefully on the bottom, even, so we don't bust the block. But as long as you gave them that nice smack, they produced very effectively. So that's my suggestion on chestnuts. With king oysters, it's very temperature dependent. Usually kings are easy if you can keep things cold. If you can't keep things cold, and they are more temperature tolerant. I mean, less temperature tolerant than I feel like than even Anokis are. To me, my Anoki, especially the Velvet Foot from Appalachian Gold, that strain will produce at a warmer temperature than kings will almost always. I do have a warm weather king that grows giant mushrooms, like it'll grow oftentimes a single big king oyster rather than a bunch of smaller kings. But even it being a warmer tolerant mushroom, you might be able to get it with a shock to fruit around 70 degrees, but it's going to be a lot better at 60, 65. And they're going to be a heck of a lot. They're going to only perform better and better the colder you get until about freezing. So, no, I don't recommend dropping Hericium blocks. To me, Hericium blocks, they don't hold together well enough to drop. And oysters and Hericium I've never found necessary to shock. They just fruit. So, Heathen says, looking in great shape, kid. Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. I actually am in a lot better shape. I still got this big ass belly, but I've been getting the soccer. I actually bought a soccer ball, so we play. We got this big parking lot here, and in the evenings and weekends, we oftentimes get out here and play soccer or throw the frisbee around. We went to the park and had a good 45-minute to an hour hike, and take the dogs swimming. So I've been lifting weights again. In fact, I pretty much blew out my lower body this past week because every single day I was doing some form of kettlebell carry, and every time I would march from one end of the parking lot to the other. As soon as I hit that gate, I would goblet that kettlebell, do 3 squats, put it back in the rack, and then carry it back to the other side, 3 more squats, and then a few rounds of that, and I was my lower body was pretty much shot for the rest of the week. So I appreciate you noticing. I feel more full of energy. I feel better. I feel like every time I look at the mirror, I've noticed this. Every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, damn, I'm still that fat. I don't feel that fat every day. Like I feel much more muscular and skinnier than what I look like. So I'm feeling good enough that I'm surprising myself. See, Devin says, what waste are you using for the microgreen farm for mushrooms? I'm not right now. I don't really have a microgreen farm. Or did I hear that backwards? My buddy uses our spit blocks for his compost, which he then uses to build his soil. So that I don't really do microgreens right now. I was just saying that I think that it's a good idea to use them back and forth. I think that you can use the spit blocks before composting, but I'm not sure. I've not done the experimentation, so. Right, yeah, good. Central Canada cold. Can you feed spent blocks to insects? Absolutely. So far, crickets did terrible. Madagascar hissing cockroaches are too slow. You would have to have a massive, massive number of them. When I did dubia roaches, they tore through substrate, but they're so annoying to deal with, and I don't like roaches. Mealworms and superworms were the two best, with mealworms being the absolute best. And if you think about it, darkling beetles, both of those are darkling beetle larvae. Their natural habitat is rotting logs, where they're eating the fungally decayed wood. Well, that's what we make. As mushroom farmers, we literally make fungally decayed wood every day. And man, those mealworms go crazy over it. So you can order boxes, just tens of thousands of mealworms shipped to your house. My thought is, instead of doing a whole breeding setup, which is what I was trying to do initially, instead, what I've been doing recently now is ordering mealworms at the smallest size and in the largest numbers, and then dumping them in aquariums with fresh mushroom substrate. And you'll see that substrate just down to nothing. And then you can take that substrate where those mealworms have gotten bigger. You can sift them out, or heck, you can just toss the whole thing out to chickens, and the chickens will scratch it up and find all those mealworms themselves. And so our chickens are getting fed mealworms that are being fed from the block production. Now, I mean, in order... right now, we're producing about 170 12-pound blocks for our grow room and a week. And in order to go through all that with mealworms, I can't tell you how many mealworms I'd have to order. It'd have to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to get through all of that substrate. So right now I'm doing like 2 or 3 blocks a week for my mealworms. And really the best candidate entirely, in my opinion, is to take your mushroom blocks and vermicompost, meaning red worms, red earthworms, red wrigglers. Those have, to me, seemed, because they're the most hands off, you can just throw that stuff together and kind of forget about it, and it produces immensely well. So, where did I go? Where we are, where is the best place to get affordable grain spawn bags in bulk? I was getting them from Midwest Grow Kits, but the grains are too wet and mushy. So you want Smay Serpents? Please get sterilized grain spawn. Okay, that's what I was about to ask. I'm glad that you did that. I mean, you can get it off my website. And if you're wanting it in bulk, then you need to email me. We do this on a regular basis. We set up weekly shipments to farms of inoculated grain spawn and sterilized grain spawn blanks. So whichever one you want, you can contact. Ours are not mushy. Oats, that's the wonderful thing about us using oats, is that they are not mushy. That said, I'm really trying to think of who else. Midnight might have some. I know Michael's stuff is usually really good, but last time I talked to Michael, I think that he was pretty much at capacity. I could be wrong. Let's see. Just so that I'm not advertising only myself, though I believe in my product, I think Main Cap and Stem is still producing sterilized blanks. And I don't know who else off the top of my head. I just really need to think about it. But hopefully that helps you right there. I don't know who's providing Midwest blocks unless they're making their own. Do you recommend dropping Hericium blocks? Oh yeah, I already answered that. What cut do you use on the bags? For Hericium blocks, I use just a straight cut. I measure it like that. Just do the shaka, and then whoop, you just cut from thumb to finger, about that size, and that's my Hericium, and then we lay it on the side and let the Hericium grow out horizontally. For oysters, we use the U cut So we cut it so that the flap is facing down and lifts up as the mushrooms grow. What is your favorite and or fastest high yielding lion's mane? Ooh, okay. So you put in favorite. Let's see, favorite and or fastest. Okay, so my favorite is probably comb tooth. Oh, you said lion's mane though. So if you mean Hericium, it's comb tooth. But if we're sticking straight with lion's mane, my favorite is probably going to be. Well, that's kind of a hard question to answer, but I'll just say lion's beard is probably my favorite, best, heaviest producing commercial lion's mane. There are a lot of Hericiums I like better, but those are other types of Hericium and not lion's mane specific. Like bear's head, to me, bear's head looks and acts more like lion's mane than any lion's mane. What is the way I would normally put it? If people want lion's mane, I usually just grow them bear's head because it looks more like lion's mane than what the lion's mane typically looks like. I mean, I'll tell them that I'm growing them bear's head, but even now, I just crossed lion's beard and bear's head together, which tells me that either Hericium outcrosses via it hybridizes relatively easily, or that the bear's head is literally a lion's mane strain, which I'm going to DNA barcoded very soon. Through Everyman Bio is going to do it for me. I'm going to hire him actually to DNA barcode my entire Hericium library just so I can get all the species right. But I think the bear's head is actually a lion's mane strain just called bear's head. Kind of like the elm oyster is actually just a tree oyster called elm oyster. So that's kind of a complicated answer, but if you want just like an easy one, lion's beard is probably the heaviest producing, fastest producing, still amazing lion's mane that is truly a lion's mane and is fast. How long do you incubate kings? About 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Can you talk about incubation bag temperatures? Have you used the infrared temperature gun to monitor results? And what have you learned about optimum bag temperatures, not air temperature, on oysters? So I will say that I do try to, as far as air temperatures go, which I know you said not, but I try to keep my incubation 70 degrees below and below. The reason for this is, yeah, I've absolutely used my thermometer gun on bags, and they are oftentimes 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the surrounding air. If the bags can touch and are touching, and you pull that back and you measure that, it can be 15 degrees warmer. Which means that if I'm at 70 degrees, that spot right there could be 85 degrees. Which is why we have a summertime density pack, like a summertime packing density and a wintertime packing density. Wintertime, blocks can be right up against each other all the way up and down the op. But in summertime, when they're in incubation, our bags you have to be able to fit a hand between every single bag. So bag, hand should be able to freely slide in and out. It can touch bags on both sides, but you need to not be able to be forcing your hand in. It needs to be able to just enter in and leave. And that way, there's a lot of air growing through. Let's see. So, yeah, I hope that answers the question. If I didn't, Vance, let me know. Awesome to hear your health is getting better. I'm working on it too, bro. You got to. Health, it's the one thing you can't purchase. The only way to purchase it is every day, a bit at a time, and that's through sacrifice and suffering. And I would rather suffer a little every day on my own terms than to suffer greatly with a health issue that I could have kept off. And, I've had to drop this attitude of I have to do this and I have to do that, and just that I get to do this, I get to do that. I've been hitting the sauna every single night. I actually bought a sauna just so I could do it here. I lift weights almost a little bit every day. I don't go in and kill myself anymore. Just 2 or 3 times a week. I just do it a little bit every day. And man, it's made such a huge difference. Like quality of life wise, you got to take care of your health. And lifting weights, I'm not a huge magic believer, but holy fuck, lifting weights it's pure magic. Some friends and I are going to Gatlinburg in August, hoping to come see you, so stay healthy. Absolutely, John. Just make sure you contact me. Make sure I'm here at the shop, because this summer I'm going to be backpacking a lot. So we're going to be taking off. We'll basically like fulfill orders, take off, go do a backpacking trip / bioprospecting trip, come back after a few days, fulfill orders, and then just keep working out that way. Um, working bit by bit to get me back out into the great outdoors. I used to be an avid backpacker, boater, etc., and the business has kind of made that difficult. So just call ahead and make sure that we're here, or email, and make sure you let me know what day you're coming through. Absolutely, spreading ideas. Thank you. Let's see, Smay. Okay, I answered that question. What's your email? My email is just mossycreekmushrooms@gmail.com. You can go to mossycreekmushrooms.com and use the contact us form. I am slow on responses. I will answer you. It might take me a week or two, at least until we set up a business relationship. Yo bought some lion's mane and pink oyster a few months ago from you, LC. Nice. I hope they did well for you. Dude, where have you been? I've been here working on it. How's the business doing 2023? 2023 has been consistently, just business-wise, every month has been better than the last. And January was the what was it? We hit a record. It was January was the highest grossing month we've ever had, period. And then I think February became the highest grossing month that we ever had, period. And the last few months I don't think have quite hit January or February levels, but man, there's something different in the mushroom world right now. I am getting mentorships. We're teaching people like crazy. I have seen more farms popping up. I am constantly, when I'm on Instagram, I've constantly been seeing my mushrooms. Like, they're obviously my mushrooms, the strains that I've bred, with our shelves, the type of shelving that we created. I'll be going through Instagram and I'm like, how'd they get a picture of my grow room? Oh, that's not my grow room. That's somebody else growing my strains using our ideas for shelving. And it's just happening. It's happening multiple times a day now. The mushroom world is heating up. For people that were telling me 10 years ago that this was a fad, it's a fad that apparently had some freaking staying power. So that's how business is doing 2023. It's doing great. In fact, it's so great that that's actually been the issue, is that we're trying to figure out how do we capitalize on how great business is doing without killing ourselves in our personal lives. So it's what do they call it? Drowning in your own success kind of thing, so to speak. We've got sterilized and pre-inoculated. Okay, so Magnolia Mushrooms has got sterilized and pre-inoculated, so you can check them out too. Have you ever seen the Exhale CO2 generator bags? Brilliant. Basically repackaged spent blocks. I have seen those. I'm trying to remember, were they using a turkey tail, I think, to create that amount of CO2? I think it was turkey tail. What's up, Mr. Rager? Not much has been up. Just a lot of stuff. We've been just making it happen. Hey, baby.
Making it happen.
So that's how things are going. I don't know why I chose to do it out here. My allergies are starting to kill me.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
It's pretty rough today.
I can literally see the pollen settling.
In fact, I think it's a high pollen count.
Oh yeah, that's probably why my phone was beeping earlier.
Probably.
If I use lime that has magnesium in it, what are the bad effects to mushroom myself? None that I know of. None that I know of. You can use agricultural lime. It's dirt cheap. It's just a few dollars for like 50-pound bag. I don't know what its magnesium level is, so I don't have an answer for you on that one. Spreading ideas. It's something I'd have to look up. Thanks, DJ. It's good to be missed. Does bear's head have the same health compounds as lion's mane? Well, see, Scott, that's the thing is I don't really know. I have a sneaking suspicion that the bear's head that we're all growing is not truly Hericium americanum, but is rather Hericium erinaceus, which whatever, lion's mane, and that it has only been called bear's head. That's a strain name, not a species name, is my thought for the common strain that we've all got. In that case, it would most certainly have some of the same health compounds. But you're also asking between two species. Hericiums have a lot of health benefits, just period. All of them do. Hey man, see ya. You're you walking? Okay. All right.
He offered to take him.
Okay.
He wants to walk.
Okay. Well, I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Corey.
Where was I? Oh, so the studies that I've seen that have the best science behind them actually show that lion's mane by itself is not the best way to get the health benefits. The best responses I've seen in studies have come from a mix of hericinones from a variety of hericium and the erinacines from lion's mane. What time are we supposed to be at dinner?
6:30.
Oh, okay. We got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. Good for you. Take care of yourself. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Mike Ent. Which I'm wondering, is Mike Ent, like, are you a mycelium ent? Like a tree ent, but made of mycelium instead of a tree? Because if so, that's pretty cool. I'm going to put that, a mycelium ent, I'm going to put that into the AI later. So, right? So speaking streamed on multiple platforms. No, it should just be YouTube. Though it is, I think it should be streaming on Patreon as well. But it's streaming on Patreon through YouTube. I want to get Rumble going. I don't know how to live stream through Rumble yet. I just started adding videos regularly. So I'm trying to add at least one or two of my old content videos per week to my Rumble account. Just because YouTube keeps coming out with all of this freaking rules and regulations that basically say, hey, you content creators have no power and have no ownership of your own stuff. So, not that I'm a conspiracy theorist. Diversity is good. If you think of my videos as a dragnet back to my website, then adding them on multiple platforms just makes sense. Multiple nets. So that I can net you fish, I guess. That seems impolite now that I've put it that way. If you were farming insects on spent block-based diet or not, what species would you farm? Probably mealworms. Just like I was talking about, where what I would do is I would order in cases of mealworms from like Flukers on like a subscription basis, and then just add them to the substrate. And don't worry about doing a breeding facility. Let Flukers do what they're good at, which is breeding the insects. What I would do is order tons of tiny little mealworms, grow them out to the size that you're going to be feeding to chickens and whatnot, and then just sifting through those. Do you have a chicken? No, that's not a chicken. That's
No.
Why are you putting something small in? Oh, it's a black soldier fly. So
That's
that's actually okay. Black soldier fly larva is the absolute best at going. That is true. I can't believe I forgot those. The only problem I've had with those is getting them to breed.
Sorry.
It's okay.
There goes.
So black soldier flies larva actually would be really, really good, and you could do the same thing with them, where you order them tiny and then grow them out. And that would be really good for chicken feed because of the high calcium levels that black soldier fly larvae have for the eggshells. Looks like he's not reading this thread. No, Scott, I am. It's just, it takes a while to get down to it. There's a bit of a delay. When you type something, I don't see it a lot of times. In fact, I have another feed just so I can read alongside with you guys, because I have a delay where you guys don't. But even then, as I'm answering a question, I don't just answer the ones on the bottom. I go through each question individually, and it takes time to get through to the bottom. Let's see. Hey from Colorado. Well, hey from East Tennessee. How long should peptone-based LC be spent daily? I say at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes a day. If you're going LC to LC, if you're going AR biopsy, then usually the first 3 to 4 days you don't spin it at all. But peptone needs, if you put peptone in your liquid culture, you need to stir more than what you store spin your other cultures. I mean, like, honestly, what I would do is spin all your cultures, and any that have peptone, if you can leave them on overnight, leave them on overnight. If you read this, goldenrod tea alleviates pollen allergies. Yeah, I've actually, I've got a methclin, a mead, a medicinal mead that I made last fall from goldenrod, specifically for this. And normally I don't have such allergy problems. I just, I mean, I do have allergy problems, but last night we slept with the windows open, and I ended up waking up and having to sit up for about an hour just coughing up mucus. And then right now I'm getting it because I've been sitting outside. And it was just so pretty that I was like, oh, I'll do my live stream outside. And I didn't think about the fact that right now I should be staying in HEPA filtered air so that I can speak. So that's okay. I'll be ending the live stream in a few minutes because I have a family dinner to get to. And then I have, for people who are on our Discord, we're doing Monday Night Live around 8 p.m. So I'll be going to eat with my family and then immediately running back over here and doing another live stream just on a different service. Trialing turkey tail on blocks. They have been in incubation 2 weeks. Have you grown them on blocks and any tips? We have grown them on blocks. It is a bitch to harvest off blocks because the bracket gets huge. I will say that, in my opinion, the best way I've seen them fruited is if you take, so you've got your block and you've got the substrate ends up right here and the bag continues going up, cut just below the top of the block. And that way the mushrooms will fruit all the way around. Why are you looking at me? Or are you looking at that? Because I can see you looking. It looks like you're looking at me. Do I have something?
I was looking at you. No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I just like looking at you.
But that's the way I would fruit turkey tail. There was a guy, like, look up fruiting for turkey tail on Facebook. There was a guy, was it Slee Stacks Rule? There's a guy that used to grow mushrooms. I don't think he grows them anymore, but he grew them outdoors and got huge fronds off the turkey tail. I mean, like 3 or 4 inches, and was able to just harvest the entire cap of the block as one big set of fruits. And that's the way I think that I would do it. I don't make a lot of money, so some of your previous videos where you talk about some of the struggles you were going through financially while starting the business make me feel better. That is part of the reason I put those up there. Samantha and I talked about that. If you notice in the beginning, the house is a mess. We got cracked windows, broken doors. And Samantha and my mother in particular used to ask me, why do you want to show your junk in the background? And I was like, because as I'm sitting there editing that video, that piece is aggravating me every chance I edit that video. Whatever I'm seeing in the background is bothering me. And I wanted to give people an honest look as to what my life was like. And then I had hoped that if I made it and I got big, that there would be videos proving that we did it on the cheap and in the basement. I mean, how cool would it be to see Jeff Bezos packing books away in his garage, right? Like if there was video of that somewhere.
Now we've looked back at some of those videos and watched them, and before, I was embarrassed before, but now I look back and I'm very grateful. So
Mushrooms lifted us out of poverty. So I'm glad that they make you feel better. That's in part what they're there for, to show that you can do it too. Yeah, Scott, I agree. I assume you're talking about the bear's head and the lion's mane. I'm just guessing that they're the same. If they're not the same, it means that the Hericium interbreeds between species, at least those two species, relatively easily. So we're not entirely sure. 1 gram bee propolis and bee pollen 1 tablespoon every day, good for allergy. I've heard that too. And thankfully mine aren't normally this bad. Just you guys are just having to catch me in a moment.
gracious.
Thanks. Yes, LC to LC. Yeah, LC to LC. You can stir as much as you want, even without peptone. But when you put peptone in there, you have to, or you're going to get the floating rafts. So cure the case with the same. Yeah, it's like fighting fire with fire, right? Dumb question, but will anything happen if I put lion's mane LC on some dead logs in my yard, or do I need to use grain spawn? I would use sawdust spawn for that case because grain spawn attracts animals that will eat it up pretty quick. And LC, the thing with liquid culture is there's agar and there's liquid culture. When you cut a chunk of agar and you put it on something like wood, that mycelium has everything that's left over in that chunk of agar to support its growth. When you throw liquid culture down, there is nothing really there to sustain the growth anymore. So it needs to go to a substrate that is incredibly easy for it to digest and leap off onto. That's why straw, I think, works, because straw is more, where straw's got a lot less lignin, and therefore there's a lot less time between beginning to digest and peptone pancake. You just completely derailed me. But well, you laughed, and I had to look, and it's good where it's worth laughing. I'm going to call it that from now on too. Thank you, Northwoods.
You can sell that.
What was I saying? Oh, anyway, it's just about sustaining. So the straw is a lot easier to eat. Wood is not, and that's why I think that wood, doesn't support very good liquid culture straight to wood. Now with Hericium, it does seem to do a lot better. I don't think it's a good idea outside because you don't really like mycelium is one cell wall thick. It really doesn't have much defense in that case. But if you take that liquid culture and you put it to some plugs or something else, then put that in your dead log. That's a great way to go. Spores. Now, if you do a spore syringe, that would probably work better. A spore syringe would probably work better than liquid culture. So, don't see that bear's head cross on your site yet. What's it called? No, I'm not selling it yet. I've been trying to learn how to breed Hericiums the way I breed oysters. And I have been successful now. And one of the big parts was in collecting clean spores. Lion's mane spores tend to be way dirtier from what I've seen. So we've taken a couple steps back to work on different ways, but the cross, there's not a single cross. We're not a single strain from that cross. I did the cross one time, and I've got maybe 40 to 50 lion's beard, bear's head crosses that I am trialing out. So, is this sounding dumb? How do we get on the Discord? The only way to get on the Discord is to go through Patreon and support us through Patreon. Take a mentorship with us or do a consult with me. If you do any of those three things, the last two, I put you on Discord manually. The first one, you'll automatically be put on. The good news about the Patreon is that you can get on for as little as $3. The bad news about Patreon is you have to wait until I create content and your card is charged before you get on the Discord. If you hire us to do a mentorship or a consult, I can immediately plug you into the Discord. Heck yeah, Dustin. Hey, please check out Learn Your Land. I love Learn Your Land. Yeah, Adam's great. I haven't seen the allergies one, but no, I like Adam. His content's been very enjoyable. I'm actually a little jealous because of how much time he gets to spend outdoors compared to how much time I have to spend in the lab. Thanks, Joe. You too. And yeah, back to the peptone pancake. Totally stealing that. I mean, I'll try to reference you every time, but you guys, I'm a huge fan of you and yours, yours and okay. Hey, you guys, I'm a huge fan of yours and you were an inspiration to me in being able to start my small mushroom farm. Sorry, I butchered that sentence. I have learned so much by studying your videos. Thank you so much. You're very welcome, Nick. I'm glad to have been helpful. But not a fan of Patreon, but I'll look into the consoles. But yeah, Patreon is I'm not the biggest fan of it either. It started off well enough, but they've made some serious changes, and they kind of shifted into a censorship direction that I'm not a big fan of. Um, I don't know enough about alternatives. I spend so much of my time focused in the biology section of things that the media side tends to slip for me. What I really need is probably to get somebody in here to actually help manage the media and make videos with me. Um, that said, that's probably a very expensive hire that I am not ready for. But, um, you know, Patreon has its pros and cons. What temp is too warm for Hericium? I have 3 different strains. What heat tolerant? Planning on growing indoors in basement. So, what temp is too warm for Hericium? That's a very broad question and without a clean answer, Nolan. I wish I had an easy answer, but there are Hericium strains that are cool weather and some that are warm weather, and it's large. It's partly species dependent. It's partly strain dependent. So for right now, I started on Friday the process for. I'm working on breeding a very cold temperature tolerant pink oyster, which is very exciting to me. I'm hoping that it being cold tolerant means that it'll have a better shelf life as well. That said, my pink oysters that I currently grow aren't supposed to be able to grow down to very chilly temperatures, but they grow down to 55 just fine. I've grown them in the lower 50s just fine. In fact, they get a really nice blood red color. The Jamor strains at least do. And it's that let's see, how do I put that? The Hericium is even less clean than the pinks on temperature tolerance. So like Dyson Sphere, I might tell you, that 80 or 85 is really too hot, but then a Dyson Sphere strain that we've got, I did not realize it in the beginning when we first started selling it because we grew it in the summer first. It was found in the hottest part of the year here, and it was cloned during that time and then grown and initially tested at that time. But it won't hardly grow in temperatures at 65 degrees. It likes it warmer. It wants it in the 70s to 80s for Dyson Sphere to grow. So that's very warm. But I would say 90s. I would say you don't want to go into the 90s as a general rule of thumb. 85 and below is probably the best one, but you're going to have 85 is probably too high with exceptions. Maybe that'll answer it. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if I did not get you. But that said, sometimes if you plant the blocks and they don't fruit, if you just leave them alone when the temperatures cool down, they'll fruit just fine. You can also, I bought a low pressure misting system. Like, if you go to an amusement park, they'll have these low pressure misting systems that you walk under and they just kind of mist you and they cool you off big time and create a big cool spot. If you're growing outdoors, you can use those cool misting system setups that just hook right up to a water hose faucet, and that'll cool your area 10, 15 degrees and humidify the air. I'm really interested into what you've been getting into with living soil. I've been looking into vermicomposting and composting in general. Absolutely. Excuse me. But I bought a still, a large, thin still, in particular, not to make whiskey or sterile water with or anything else, but literally to cook spent substrate into to make spent charcoal. Spent substrate. Charcoal. My goodness, I am falling apart all of a sudden. Anyways, I'm usually a 3 sneezer, so just know there might be 2 more coming. Anyways, so I took spent substrate. You're going to have to dry it out because it, in its wet form, it just cooks forever and does not really dry out very well. But if you take pellets, just already dried pellets, you can literally cook it in the sterilizer, and it'll make charcoal. And then you take that charcoal and you add it to what I took was spent substrate and the runoff, the leachate from the vermicomposting system I have, and I poured the leachate into a bucket of water with a bubbler in it, threw in some spent pieces of spent mushroom substrate, and then dumped that charcoal in there, and just let that stuff bubble around for a couple of days. Then pulled it out, and man, it smelled good, like super good, like soil. So that's something I've been wanting to do on a larger scale, is to make this biochar. It's a really fine grade biochar. It's very biologically active. Let's see. Yeah, you're very welcome, Northwoods. Absolutely. Yeah, I am hiring. I'm always hiring. So all you gotta do is send in a resume to me. At this point, I'm hiring 24/7. So now, whether I can afford to pay you what you think is worth moving out here for is a different story. But we are absolutely hiring. What are my thoughts on cubes? I think that they're a useful tool. I think that they're kind of pushed as a cure-all for many things for many people, and while I think that many people, including myself, have benefited from them, and in fact, I have said before, and will say again, that they downright saved my life, at least my quality of life. But that's a story for another time. But so I have very big, high-minded thoughts on them, while recognizing that they are a tool that has limitations. So that's my thoughts. You're very welcome, Nolan. Do you think the mushroom industry will eventually look like it does in the cultivation of button mushrooms, where a few very large facilities produce the vast majority of the market? I don't think it'll look exactly like buttons. If you've read the Mycological Warfare series that Ben wrote on our blog, you'll kind of see a little bit more about what we expect. Portobellos, shiitakes, creminis, anything that ships well and can be produced in high numbers like that is what we call a tier 2 mushroom. Now, really, buttons, I guess, are even further down the tier. Excuse me, but they there's too many mushrooms that don't ship well for it to be just like the button industry. I mean, because that's if you really think about it, it's kind of like asking, well, do you expect the broccoli industry to look like the tomato industry? We're talking about an entire kingdom worth of edible choices, each one with its own style of cultivation and its own style of shipping. So I really think that what you might see is a higher amount of centralized producers of blocks that then ship to farms. And what I think you'll see is a lot of farms that already produce a product will jump on that bandwagon. Basically, they'll see these other mushroom producers and they'll say, I can buy these blocks in by the hundreds, and then I can fruit them right here, and then I can use the compost and use a manure spreader to spread this mushroom compost over my field crops, and they'll see that they're getting a double bounty off of the mushroom production from these centralized regional producers. What that means for smaller farmers, don't really know. It might mean that you move into higher value, lower shelf life mushrooms or the like, or it may mean that you get bought out and employed by these farms. And in fact, you might find that that's a better lifestyle, is to be working in the fungal industry and employed by a larger farm. But you've developed your skill set to do it and gotten paid to do it while building your own farm. I think there's going to be a million different ways to see this happen, and it's an ecosystem in flux, and we're going to see a lot of niches filled in a lot of different ways. So, dear Mossy Creek Mushrooms, would you eat a human under the correct circumstances? Well, that's a Mossy Creek Mushrooms question, Samantha. So, would you eat a human under the right circumstances? No.
Oh no. There's an immediate disgust factor.
There is an immediate disgust factor.
If it were my children, if I had my children, would it be right for me to be like the mother spider, right, and have myself be eaten for their survival? I don't know. That's a pretty twisted question.
Yeah. I will say that it would have to be incredible circumstances. I would eat the inner bark of pine trees before I eat people. I would probably allow parts of myself to be amputated and eaten before I would eat anyone else.
There you go.
But that doesn't mean that I would just give up on life. I don't know. If I got hungry enough, certain people might look really tasty. Depends on how much people annoy me too. Like if we're sitting there and the plane's broken and we're all sitting there like, and somebody's over there just complaining the whole time, dude's getting eaten. Dude's getting eaten fast just to shut him up. So there's that. But yes, twisted question. Will mycelium rule the earth once humans self-implode? I don't think humans are going to self-implode. And mycelium already is successful. It is certainly more successful. I feel like mycelium's really got it made because on a day-to-day basis, they got a job to do. And when the world goes to hell, they got a job to do. And when things go good again, they got the job. That's why vulture culture is the way to go. You don't see vultures going anywhere. But no, I don't think I'm actually very optimistic on the human condition. Very, very, very optimistic. Doesn't mean that I don't think we'll have trials. Oh, look at that purple martin. I think that we've got a ton of trials ahead of us. I don't think we're all going to make it. But I don't think all of us were going to make it anyways. So
I would grow mushrooms before I ate a human.
I would grow mushrooms before I ate a human too, especially since
I already. Thing is, what's the scenario? Like, how many options are there?
Now, I will say that I've maintained for a long time that when I die, our clan death caretaker, death bringer, whatever you want to call him, is going to re-articulate my skeleton and hang it up in the halls of the ancestors. Mm-hmm. And I want him to replace my skull with a skull of a longhorn cow. And I want to be holding my own skull as if I'm asking myself a question, but I'm the Minotaur. And then I want all my flesh to be taken with dermestid beetles. You can have that all eaten to clean the bones. To grow mushrooms off those things. And then I want everyone to take a trip on me. See, there you go. That's my funeral arrangements. Oh, and I gotta save my skin. Skin needs to be tanned. So there's some more twisted stuff. How's that? What's a good summer mushroom to grow outside in the shade? All right, I got to pick this up because I got to end this so I can go eat. Milky mushroom is probably a really good one. We're going to be doing a lot of trials with that in our Discord group. So people in the Discord actually I've already started plating out the milky mushroom. I had it imported from India, and we are now going to be growing it and trialing it this year. We're also supposed to be getting a culture of the patty straw mushroom. That is supposed to be a good one in really hot places. So our friends in the South can really benefit from that. The pink oysters, golden oysters. We've got about 3 strains of oysters that do incredibly well in the heat outdoors. That'd be Mother of Pearl. King Blue does pretty well. Pathfinder Oyster does pretty well. Elm Z does very well. And Elm Z is from Jay Schindler of Fungi for the People, I think. I don't know. You don't really hear from Jay anymore. I don't know what he's up to these days. Any new wild mushroom clones you've taken? A lot of wild mushrooms. In fact, we have 5 strains of pheasants back that we are cloning this week. We just brought them in from the wild this weekend. We're going to be cloning those out and growing those in the grow room, trawling them out. Lots of new oysters, lots of new oysters that are wild and cloned. In fact, for the first time ever that I can find, I cannot find any evidence of anyone ever finding a wild golden oyster in the state of Tennessee. And Ben's oldest son, was like, "Hey, Dad, come look at this weird-looking mushroom." So Ben went over and looked at the weird-looking mushroom, and it was a freaking golden oyster. So he brought that back to me. We cloned it. It is cloned and going into liquid culture this week, and I'm very, very excited. What? Teddy? He's always got his front teeth up. So yeah, we got an East Tennessee golden oyster that's wild. Will be coming out very soon on the website. So all kinds of stuff. Yes, I'm going to be heading into the HEPA filter very soon. The wood wide web and motivating people to love and defend the natural world. An ounce of hope is worth a ton of despair. Absolutely. I agree, Chuck. Do you know any resource that outlines the best substrate or spawn materials? Example for king oyster. About the best chart that I know, like charting that I know of, is in Paul Stamets' Black Book, Growing Gourmet and Medicinal Mushrooms. He's got nutritional profiles listed out, and then advice on how to formulate a substrate. That's a really, really good way to go. Otherwise, you're just going to be combing through nutritional profiles online. I don't know of anything online that's like a complete resource like that. How do you deal with dangerous levels of CO2 buildup in your incubation space? We have air being jettisoned from we have an HRV. So air is constantly leaving the incubation room, and the recovered energy is being dumped back into the Great Hall, and the CO2 laden air is being dumped outside. Do you think the addition of biochar would be beneficial for blocks, or would it increase the likelihood of bacterial contamination? I don't know. I've been wanting to do it, to throw some in there and see. I don't know that it would be. It might be neither. What I think it would is probably it would be good for soil. The spent substrate would be even better for soil. It would be better for soil because of all the porous nature and the amount of hyphae that are probably in those pores and then breaking down, creating food sources for bacteria. Very welcome. Biochar does hold a lot of moisture for sure. Can I use dubia roach frass for mushroom sub? I think you can use any kind of insect frass, but you need to get a nutritional profile on it to see if it make a good complete substrate or if it needs to be treated as a carbon source or a nitrogen source. My guess is a nitrogen source, being that it's frass and all. Yeah, that's true. Name the golden O after the pup. Maybe. I don't know. I do love my pup. My dumb, beautiful pup. We kept him because he's pretty.
He's just stubborn.
He is stubborn. In fact, the problem is he's smart enough to know what he wants and that he doesn't necessarily have to listen. Yeah. Let us meet in the mountains to worship the mighty shrump. I don't know what that is. Let us meditate on the mushroom we'd like to see in the world. Let us eat mushrooms and live forever in the name of the hyphae, the spore, and the holy host. Amen. I don't know what that's from. If you made it up, let me know. Just bought that book and very happy about it. It is a good book. It is it is a good companion to Radical Mycology for sure. Definitely better out than in. All right, guys, I need to jump off here, so I'm going to answer these couple quick ones real quick, and then I'm heading off. Sorry for the second ask, but any input on how to figure out pricing on restaurants versus market? That's going to depend very wildly on your area. I've got a friend down in like Boca Raton who sells mushrooms like $15 a pound to restaurants, like his lowest price mushrooms. I sell for $9 a pound. We were at $8, but we just recently raised our price. I will say it is easier to start high and then go low than it is to go low and creep up.
Now, we did have a restaurant ask us to go down to $7 a pound or $70 a case.
And we told them no, and then we lost them. So,
So
but it wasn't worth it to me to keep them and go down $10 a case when we've got people that went up $10 a case. So
now we tried to stay as steady as we could for as long as we could through everything.
yeah, we didn't raise prices once through COVID. It was only just the past couple of months that we finally raised prices. And in fact, a couple of our restaurants were like, yeah, we were wondering when you were going to do that. You were the only one that hasn't raised prices.
Yeah.
All right. What substrate should I use for shiitake, lion's mane, and wine cap? Shiitake, wheat bran. So I like a good 70-30, 70% carbon, 30% wheat bran for your shiitake. Lion's mane and wine cap can both be grown on Master's Mix, which is a 50-50 combo of wood and soy hulls, or you can use the oat hulls at like a 70-30 split, with the 30% being the oat hulls. So I could use one substrate for them all if possible. If you can grow shiitake strain 3790 on Master's Mix, and then you could standardize all three of those on Master's Mix that way. But the other shiitakes don't do so well on that, so you would need that strain in particular. All right, guys, I'm going to end it there. Thank you all so much for joining me. It was excellent. We ended up staying more than an hour, which was unexpected. So I'm happy to do it. We'll get some videos out to you guys soon. Keep spawning culture, y'all.